Okay, so this is the gallery walk for you and for other people who want to watch that. This is the Somatic Consent workshop in Byron Bay. And we started 2.5 days ago on a Friday evening with the first map about the 4 feelings. So where we were pointing out that all our feelings are based on 4 different feelings: anger, sad, joy, or fear, and it's only one of them alone or in a mix as double, 3 or 4. So where we went into the map of the numbness bar, where all these emotions having a different expression to implode or explode at 80% when we have them coming up. So what was our job on that weekend was our numbness bar to lower down to 10%, somewhere there where we have access to our low-level feelings for emotional intelligence and how to make choices based on our feelings. Then we went into the polyvagal map where we determine how it feels in our nervous system between we are safe or we are not safe, and how the different functions of the sympathetic, of the mobilization works when we're not safe in fight-flight, or when we are safe, getting in any kind of physical action that's fun or joyful, or the difference between when we shut down in shock and freeze when we're not safe, or in the so-called bliss state that is more connection and oxytocin based. We start feeling up an object and went into deeper sensory feelings in our skin, where we went into the 3 components of pleasure map, where we brought our attention to the stimuli on our skin, where we activated our noticing brain, literally becoming aware of what's going on in our body, instead of going into our working mind, into the story, the meaning, the context that is related to the sensation, so that we have a choice to flip between our working mind and our noticing mind and bring out our attention to our sensory pleasure. From there we went into the somatic nervous system in the differentiation between the inflow, so when it's activated in our hands, and the motory division, where we go in an action that is pleasant and joyful for our nervous system. So that we as well found the differentiation between when we're doing something for ourselves or when we're doing something for ourselves by touching somebody else, but then bringing our attention not to our sensory inflow, more than to the reaction that another person has, so that we're not getting lost in somebody else's reaction, rather than coming back to our sensory feeling of our skin and making this sensory information the base, the foundation of our embodiment. So that our embodiment and our sensory feelings is literally the base, what we have a right and responsibility for, so that we actually can anytime come back to our foundation, to our base, and when we have an encounter, an engagement with another person, that we have a right to our desires and a right to our limits as well. The other person has the same rights and responsibilities, and that the engagement between 2 people is literally the relationship that they create based on agreements, on limits and desire. From there we went into the empowerment and what the entire dynamic of the empowerment has in storage, that instead of going into the action as the giver, what is mostly thought as the most important piece, we actually slowing things much more down and bringing the dynamic to the receiver, what the receiver wants, that the receiver needs the formula, the special formula ingredients, having enough time to notice, trust, value, and communicate what their desire is, to express that, and then the giver is doing a similar dynamic, having enough time to notice, trust, and value, communicate what their limits are, what they're willing to, and then it comes to the action based on the receiver is doing it or the giver is doing it, where the action is a bonus or an extra. So we played with that for a few exercises with another person, and went from there into the empowerment massage. I forgot that nearly. So the empowerment massage is the changeover of the dynamic where the giver, the doer, is exactly doing what the receiver wants and nothing more and nothing less for this 10 seconds of touch, and having this 20 seconds in between every touch, that the nervous system can recalibrate itself and finding desire and expression of impulses by natural feelings and sensations in the body. From there, we just went into the shadow dynamics. So what is it that we can't ask for what we want? So why is it difficult for you to ask for what you want? And we just brainstormed all this big list here, and went from there into the dynamics. What are we doing instead if we can't ask for what we want? Brainstormed that list and reflected that to the entire shadow dynamics. So the adaptive survival mechanisms, the way how we have learned to get our needs met, and feeling into different dynamics to just engage with other people without really being clear about how to ask and how to engage. Then we just played a little bit about what is the spiritual and personal development about that. So where I translated the wheel of consent literally in a different structure, where the engagement zone, so the wheel in itself, showing up as a specific way of engaging as a kind of the glue between the spiritual, the upper world, and the shadow, the basement, the lower world, that they're actually not two different things, so that we have the capacity in the ascending and descending way constantly to evolve and see where are we actually on that map, and what is actually missing in here if there is no agreement between somebody. From there I showed the development of the somatic consent engagement system, so where the pyramid structure, show that here, so where the dynamic is translated in a pyramid structure, where we have our basement, where we just making choices from an empowered place, where we learn how to ask for what we want in form of having permission on creating agreement, and when it's either your action or it's their action, that you know it's either for you or for them by knowing is there an agreement or permission or not. So if there is a permission and an agreement, you literally have an alignment and truth. You're just in the place of developing in the direction you want to develop, or you choose, or you go there without choosing into the shadows, how we engage when we don't have permission, when we don't have an agreement, when we can't say no, when we can't stick to our limits. And then the last map is the communication map, where this dynamic between the communication of making an invitation and being in connection with another person from an interpersonal space, where we creating a winning situation from a position of love and care for each other, going into the engagement part where we either making an offer or a request, and as well acknowledging the other person's limit about what they're willing to and what their limits are, down into the basement where we own our emotions for keeping our boundaries straight, so that we're capable of saying no when something is happening to us that we don't want, and as well becoming aware when the basement communication is going on, where people having all kind of structures, so where we try to figure out our bullshit barometer. So when we are in an action for somebody, or somebody's doing something towards us where we don't have a clear agreement, where it feels kind of just like, I don't know exactly what that is, so that you know your bullshit barometer will tell you if there's no agreement, you know you are not in the engagement zone, you're somewhere in the shadows. So that here's as well the somatic consent engagement system map in the bigger picture. So this is as well downloadable on the webpage as a PDF and as a JPEG, so that you can use that in any form you want. And so that's pretty much it. 3.5 days with a lot of embodiment exercises in between. And thank you for coming here and joining.